Alright, so today I want to talk about how women can accidentally become double agents for misogyny under the guise of empowerment. So let's get straight into it. So basically, when I was starting this YouTube channel, I got sent a program about how to show up in social media as your authentic self, right? And I looked into it, and as I looked further into it, there was these two lines that stood out to me. One of them said, "You're soft won't sell." And then the next one was, "You're nice won't sell." And I was like, okay, for a workshop supposed to be about authenticity, saying that you're soft and you're nice won't sell. What if somebody is naturally soft and nice and that's who they are authentically? And this is telling them, no, change that. And it's a workshop about authenticity. It's just crazy to me. And I think that happens so often where you're told in order to be successful and a boss, like a boss woman, you are told to adopt more masculine traits as a woman. For example, that's a prime example of it. Like, get rid of your softness, get rid of your niceness, and then you'll actually be respected. And I had a friend in high school where I was at her house one time. I have always talked super fast and super high pitched and like da 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 da, and I get really excited about things really easily. And I remember just got done telling her a story, and she was like, if you want to be taken seriously in the future, you should really lower your voice. And I was really confused, and I just kind of like stared at her, and she was like, no, like, I'm not trying to be mean. It's just like scientifically proven that women who have a deeper voice get taken more seriously than women with a higher pitched voice. And I was just like, what? And so like, even if that's true, which it probably is, it just goes to show that there's this narrative that in order for women to be better leaders, in order for women to be authentic, in order for women to be respected and effective in their roles, they need to get rid of themselves, like get rid of their feminine traits and adopt more masculine traits. And I don't think that it's intentional that a lot of these girls will do these like empowerment workshops and actually push misogynistic ideals accidentally. I don't think that that's on purpose. But I do think it's so important to talk about, because you do not have to adopt solely masculine leadership traits in order to be effective in your role as a leader or as a salesperson or as a friend. Like, you don't need to do that. And I think that there's this idea, even in the women empowerment, like, this is your boss era, this is your, like, all of this stuff, it really tells you to get rid of the feminine parts of yourself. That, I think, is so dangerous, because it pushes the idea subconsciously that your feminine traits are undesirable, ineffective, useless, and masculine traits are desirable. So I feel like I'm just repeating myself a little bit here, but I just really want to send home that it's so dangerous that that's not realized, and it's not something that people are consciously doing. I have had a lot of male leaders in my life and female leaders in my life. And I think that a great leader / manager blends a lot of masculine and a lot of feminine leadership and just qualities in general together. Something that made me respect a manager more than I've respected any other manager is, so I was working at a bank, and my manager at the time was a girl. I was having a really, really rough day, and she like asked me, she was like, hey, like, she noticed, and she was like, is everything okay? And I kind of started tearing up, and I was like, no, but I don't really want to talk about it. And then a customer came in, and so I helped the customer, and I like got back to like peppy and happy, and I was like, okay, like, hi, what can I do for you? And then she came over right after that customer left, and she was like, do you want to go home? And I was so confused. I was like, I mean, yeah, but why? And she was like, I realized like you were about to cry and you set that aside so that you could be helpful for a customer. And I wanted to reward that, because that is such good work ethic. That is such good professionalism. And yeah, and I want to support you. And I was like, oh my gosh. I think that that would be considered a soft leadership approach, where she was very attentive. She was very attuned to the emotions that I was feeling. And then she noticed that I was struggling, and then still decided to do my job anyway and remain professional. And she was like, I want to reward that. I want to make sure she knows that she's supported, and that I don't just expect her to be a robot and like a cog in the machine, right? I respected her so much after that. I felt so safe there. I felt so seen. I felt so secure. It was just amazing. And then contrary, I had a male leader when I was working at the car wash, and there was this guy who was being really rude and really rowdy in the parking lot. And I was like going out around trying to clear out the vacuums. And I didn't get to him in the time that he wanted me to get to him in, so he started throwing all the vacuums on the ground. They were sucking up the snow, and that's bad because it can jam the vacuums, whatever. And my manager came out and he was like, go inside. And I was like, okay. So I went inside, and we all have like walkie-talkies, and so we were like talking on there about like what was going on. And basically my manager was like, you're gonna go pick those up. And he literally walked with him as he picked up every single vacuum that he had thrown on the ground. And he's like, and now you're gonna apologize to her. And so he apologized to me, and then he sent the guy on his way. And that was another moment that I felt incredibly supported, incredibly safe in the environment, and like people had my back. And that I would consider a more masculine leadership type. And that's what I'm saying, where it's like there are traits of masculine leaders and feminine leaders that you can blend and create something really beautiful. And I think that the problem just becomes when we are suppressing all the feminine ones and saying that those are less useful, less powerful, when that's just not the case. And I think that leaders who are willing to stand up for their people and not scared of confrontation, and also incredibly emotionally attuned to their staff, are super, super effective. And so yeah, I just wanted to make this because I think being soft is such a superpower, and it can make you an amazing leader. And I think it is so important to realize that that is just as powerful as somebody who is loud, outspoken, and who cares about the team and is just really focused on getting this goal done. Your softness is a superpower. Your softness is such a big strength. Your niceness, unless it gets in the way of keeping yourself safe in dangerous situations. I have a whole other video about that. But your niceness, your kindness is such a superpower. Your emotional sensitivity and attunedness is a superpower. And if you're a person in sales or as a manager, that you are doing yourself an incredible disservice by trying to shut off that part of you and just trying to be a leader who is loud and who people listen to but might not necessarily respect. It just makes me so sad that those traits are seen as less than and less important, and you want to get rid of them and you want to swap them out for more masculine traits. It's just so important because I don't think that women a lot of the times realize that they're doing this. I think there's a lot of internalized misogyny, like with my friend's mom saying that I should speak in a lower tone, register, whatever it is, as opposed to a higher one so that I get taken seriously, where it's like, how are we ever going to change speaking in a higher register as getting taken seriously if we never do it? Because as people, change comes about because people challenge what's already there. They challenge like the status quo. And if we just adopt like, oh, women aren't taken seriously when they talk in a higher pitch, so we all need to talk in lower pitches so that we get taken seriously, then that's just going to perpetuate it, and it's never ever going to change. And it's going to perpetuate the idea that people with lower voices, aka men, or just women who speak lower, mimicking men, and that's not to say like if you have a low voice, you're mimicking men, but I mean the people who do it intentionally so they get taken more seriously, then how is that ever going to change? Are we just going to have to talk lower to get taken more seriously for the rest of our lives? And same with the workshops. Are we just going to have to stop being feminine and soft and nice and emotionally attuned for the rest of eternity and not challenge that and not show up and show how powerful those things can really be? I just think that that's crazy. I just think that that's crazy. And I think it's so important to challenge those things, which is why I wanted to talk about this. It needs to be challenged if it's something that like we want to be changed. And I don't know about you, but I want to be authentically me for real. I don't want to suppress my softness and my niceness and my emotional sensitivity to be more like somebody in order to be taken seriously. And I don't think that's necessary to begin with. So I just think we need to stop perpetuating the idea that feminine traits are less desirable and they need to be swapped out for masculine. I think that they're both incredibly strong and can be combined into something so powerful. Thank you for being here. This is a little bit of a shorter video and it's definitely very tangenty, but it's something I feel so passionate about and something that I want to make more in-depth videos about in the future. It's just something that I had on my mind and I wanted to get out into the world. So thank you so much for being here. I have 1 subscriber now, which is crazy. It might be a bot, but even if it is a bot, that's so exciting. So if you're a real person, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for subscribing. And I will see you next video. Goodbye.